Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Patrick Dunne, the chair of ESSA, to give us his brief welcome remarks.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, and thank you also to the AAU more broadly for its tremendous work in this project, and also its terrific Ghanaian hospitality. This morning it's such a joy. You don't get a greeting like you get a greeting in Accra in London typically in the morning. Your wonderful woman on reception was just going, "Yay, going to be a good day." It was just fantastic. How many of you were here at the first stakeholder meeting? Not many. I was. So it may be worth reiterating why we've done this and how this study happened. Perhaps I'll stand in the middle so you can see. The idea for this came from a conference of infrastructure investors and a conference of builders. And at this conference, I was sitting there. I've been very interested in many things to do with Education Africa. My background is in industry, academia, and as an investor. And these investors were saying, there's a bonanza about to happen. And this bonanza is 500 new universities across Africa. Existing universities going to grow like crazy. We're going to be really rich because we'll be able to invest, we'll be able to build. This is going to be fantastic. And I was sitting there, and I when it came to the questions, I said, do you mind if I ask a question? I'm not a builder and I'm not an infrastructure investor, but can I ask a question? And the guy said, yeah, of course you can ask a question. And the question I asked was, well, where will the faculty come from? And he said, well, that's not our job. That's the job of governments. That's the job of the universities. So I said, so you're asking people to invest in your funds to build all these buildings, but your biggest risk possibly you don't actually care about. Why would I invest in your fund? And that got me thinking, actually, what is the demand for faculty? And not just what is the demand for faculty as one big number, but how do you actually understand that demand for different topics, for gender, which is really important, and for different places. So that was the germ that led to this study. Of course, one individual with an idea isn't enough. You need partners, you need strong partners, and that's why we have assembled the partnership that we have today. This project, which ESSA is delighted to be involved in, is one of 3 big projects at the moment that we have underway. The first one, actually, we launched a few weeks ago, and this was to solve another frustration I had, which was that it was very difficult to find research done by Africans on education in Africa. It was very easy to find research done by Cambridge, Harvard, these kind of guys, but very difficult to find stuff that was done on the ground by Africans. So what ESSA has done is produced the first free, open, searchable database of education done by Africans. So many of your education departments will be in there, and that is on the ESSA website. It has over 2,000 pieces of research. This is already highlighting the gaps in research. There's actually very little research on out of school, for example. And that is in common with the demographics of faculty in the sense that often the best research, of course it answers some questions, the questions that you sought to answer in undertaking the research, but the best research I've ever been involved in also raises more questions. And I think, as you'll see today, especially in Marlene's fascinating presentation about what some of the things behind the numbers, I think it will beg you to answer more questions, and we'd love to get your input on some of those issues. The third project that we're involved in is connected to this one, and this is around scholarships. Many people are assuming that the growth in enrollments will be matched by a growth in scholarship funding available. I think that's optimistic. I think also that much scholarship funding is not efficient, is not as effective as it could be. So what we're doing is looking at the characteristics of the most effective scholarship models to try and pull out if you were setting up a scholarship model, this is the best way to do it. This is the most efficient way to do it. So I hope we have a really fascinating discussion. I'm sure we will have, given the discussion we had at the last meeting. And I'd like to thank again the AAU for hosting this event and for taking part so thoroughly in the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.